Welcome new listeners to the Reese on the Regular podcast. I have Sara here with me today.
Hi guys, I am so excited to be here. We have some awesome tips coming your way.
We do.
When Reese texted me and asked me to come on this, I was like, easy answer, yes.
I love it.
I'm a junior at UMass Amherst, just like Reese. That's where I met Reese. We're in a finance club together. We're both in the same business school there. So I see Reese a lot on campus, and we have similar interests with post-grad, and we also love wellness and lifestyle and all of that. So
we're pretty hardworking girls in finance. I will say Sara kind of kicks my butt in that aspect, but I just kind of sit there and pretend, but it's all right. Yeah, we kind of just like met through school, always like knew of each other just from being like from similar hometowns. I'm just super excited to have Sara on here today. We're going to be talking about independence. We know a little bit about it and just how to learn to love your own company.
Exactly.
I'm excited to talk about this. I just feel like I need this reminder right now. And so I hope it helps you guys out too. I know that for me, independence really started once I graduated high school and when I got into college. That was also a little bit challenging, and I'm curious, what challenges did you face switching from, living at home with your parents to living independently, and kind of how did you handle that?
Definitely. I feel like this is the perfect way to get started today, because moving away from my sheltered home life to a huge state school was totally out of my comfort zone, and I didn't even have a choice of realizing I needed to grow up and be independent. I feel like being at home independence wasn't even a thing that crossed my mind. Just to preface, I come from a family of 5. My whole family is from this area. I had a boyfriend all throughout high school, was always involved. So I really was never alone. It never crossed my mind of how to be alone or anything like that. And then after getting dropped off at college, it was the craziest.
It was the craziest feeling. Yeah. Once your parents leave and you're actually settled in, you're like, okay, now what do I do?
Yes, you're just
crazy
there and you need to figure it out, and your mom's not going to cook you dinner. You're going to be alone sitting in a silent room. I don't know about you, but when your roommate left, it was the weirdest feeling. Yep. So not hearing other people talking, even though we did you live in a tower?
Yeah, I did.
So we lived in a tower with 900 other students.
Surrounded by people.
But you still can feel so lonely. So that was a definite challenge for me. Also, when you're sick in college, it's terrible. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. There's something about not being at home with your mom and her giving you medicine and asking you how you feel and just being in your childhood bed. It's so different. And then just that sense of responsibility of your fridge isn't always going to be full. You need to plan. You need to budget. You can't spend all of your money in 1 week. And eating is such a task. I don't know if you felt that way, but finding people to eat with was
it was so hard when I wasn't living in the house and I was in the dorms and we would have to go out to get food every single day. Finding people to eat food with was so hard. And coming from a family, a big family that cooks and you're having family dinners, it's you don't want to go and get food alone.
Yeah.
The whole process was a lot, having to transition from having those home cooked meals to eating school
dining
food.
Hall. And we had good food.
We have good food, so we can't complain. But it is a big transition and a big jump in independence for sure.
I agree. But I feel some tips for this over the last 3 years, it would be to just pick a day of the week and plan. So for me, that's Sunday. That's making my grocery list, texting people hey, want to get dinner this night? And then you can look forward to eating with them. And then also getting over the fear of going to the dining hall alone. It seems like the scariest thing at first, but it's really not. And no one cares. No one's going to ask you oh, where are your friends? Also, if you're sick, just rest. I know you feel you should go out with your friends and you feel you're going to miss out, but taking a few nights to just rest will help you for the rest of the semester, I feel
I really burned myself out my first semester because I just didn't know what rest was and couldn't do it for some reason. This semester, I've still gotten sick because it's kind of just inevitable at school for some reason. But I have taken the time to rest and it's really helped me out a lot. So that's definitely a good tip. For me, just to kind of give backstory on my transition to independence, I would say, like I said, started definitely when I moved into college, moved into the dorms. Another big jump for me was this past summer when I was actually just living on my own in Connecticut all by myself, like no family, no friends around me, not even like down the street around me. So I was really alone, and the silence was loud. Like that was, it was crazy. I was cooking for myself, but it definitely helped, like having my Sundays to meal prep. I was doing so well with that at that time. Just figure out my week and really plan. The next jump for me was this year moving into a house off campus instead of being in the dorms. Did you have any like transitions from that, like dorm to like living in the house?
I feel like our campus is so lively. There's like 40,000 people who go to our school. So there's always something going on. And then when you move off campus I live in an apartment, she lives in a house, but it's quiet and you don't see people walking around and you don't see those campus friends you have. So that's definitely a transition you have to redo after you move from home to the dorms.
With what we were saying earlier, with just like cooking your own meals, you're not going to the dining hall as much now. You're really having to go get groceries and spend a lot of money. And so I feel like a big challenge I've faced with being off campus is definitely budgeting and finances for sure. I would just say, for a tip, try and track your spending and just really be cautious, needs over wants type of thing for that.
Exactly. I mean, I switched over from going to Trader Joe's every week and spending like $100 and throwing away food that was like not even open, to having to just like eat leftovers 3 days a week. So it's a learning process. It's not going to be easy. You probably will waste money like I did.
Probably will go to Trader Joe's in the pouring rain today.
Exactly.
You probably will just go.
Yeah.
No, but happens. You have to just really learn to budget, because it's a tough time when you're this young trying to save.
And you don't work a 40-hour week typically during college.
The just big girl responsibilities that came with moving into a house this semester, not just having to cook my own food, but cleaning and just finding time to fit in those chores around classes was another big adjustment. So I think overall, like we've been saying, the biggest tip for this is just planning.
Exactly. And my roommates and I don't know about you, but we have like a cleaning schedule. So one day someone will do the kitchen, another day the bathroom. Having some sort of schedule and plan with your roommates helps.
Did you have any emotional challenges when it came to either just at first moving out, going to college type of thing?
Definitely. I feel like I thought the big school was going to be the best thing in the world, like endless friends, like endless people to hang out with, but that wasn't the case for me. It took me a long time to find like my group of people on campus. I didn't really have any close friends from high school going to the school, so I had to kind of start from scratch, and realizing that like it took months and I thought something was wrong with me for a while. I was like, oh, maybe it's my fault, but just you have to keep trying and putting yourself out there and joining clubs. And also just you're going to miss home. I don't know about you. I'm a homebody. I couldn't call my parents for like 2 weeks. I was like, I'll start crying. I can't do that.
I feel like it's really hard going into a big school like that, not going in with friends, because so many of the friend groups were like already
from high school,
like made type of thing. Like I came in with a lot of my friends from high school, and that was who I spent the whole like first semester with. So that's definitely a tough adjustment. And I think the best tip is really just getting yourself involved and putting yourself out there to meet people. I definitely miss home a lot. I just like miss my bed and miss my family type of thing. Definitely try not to go home every single weekend, but a visit home doesn't hurt. It just really helps to stay on campus as much as you can, just to keep that independence. So like we've been saying, transitioning into college, it really does become a big time of independence and spending a lot of time with yourself. Do you ever encounter like boredom or loneliness when you're trying to just enjoy your own company?
All of the time. As much as I love being alone and being independent, there are those days where I feel so alone, and there's days where I've even cried because it's like I need to hang out with someone. In order to fix that, I think it's really just calling those people from home that are your security blanket. So those are like my close friends from when I was in kindergarten, my parents, and usually if they pick up the phone, they're not really doing anything either. So it makes you feel better that they'll sit there and talk with you. I also love to just turn off my phone. I feel like that's my number one thing. Just seeing everyone else doing things together. It's tough. Sometimes you feel left out and you feel like you should be doing it. Turning off that phone helps a lot.
I think that's such a good tip, and something I need to to work on. Everyone in my family could tell you that I like go in a circle of who I'm calling. Like after one class I call Brooke, after one class I call my mom. Like they're all getting a call from me like in my in-between time in my walks. But sometimes I just have to shut off my phone and just like enjoy that time, like to just breathe and be with myself. So I think that's a really good tip.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but I'm such a planner. So planning things for the future, I get excited about that, and then I feel less lonely or less bored, and it's fun to spend your time doing that.
I think another good tip is creating a positive environment around you. Like if you're sitting in your room and you're all alone, open the blinds, get some sunlight going, you know, like turn on some good music. Don't just like sit there in your boredom and be sad.
Exactly. I feel like my go-to is takeout and a movie, or takeout in YouTube or something like that, just to like have some sort of noise, because then you're just there with your thoughts, and that's brutal sometimes.
Yeah, no, sometimes I love just like a night in with myself and just watching a good show, like having a good snack. I think just like making it a positive environment around you is so important too. Some people really overlook journaling, but I think that it's such a good way to like really understand your emotions and what you're thinking. If you're just like sitting there in your thoughts when you're bored or lonely or feeling upset, I think it's really good to just kind of write down how you're feeling and kind of just try to turn it into a positive in that way. I feel like journaling helps me a lot.
I definitely do that in the morning too. I have to take the first hour of the day to just write out my thoughts and how I'm feeling, and know that not every day is going to be easy. It's not always easy being alone. Some days you'll thrive off of it, and other days it's hard. So knowing that is an awesome way to just keep going forward.
Also, I think it's good to engage in activities that are actually meaningful, whether that's like working on a certain project or reading a book. Like something you're working towards is a really good way to just like keep yourself busy and not get caught up in that loneliness, but also just be proud of yourself in something that you're accomplishing on your own.
Yeah, and I feel like in college that can be tough when everyone else around you is living the typical college lifestyle, but taking a step back and doing something that is going to make you feel accomplished or good will really help you in that state.
I feel like a big reason that a lot of people struggle with being alone is because they view it as loneliness, not being alone. So how can you shift your mindset from feeling like you're lonely to just actually spending alone time?
It's not really like one day where it's just going to flip and you're going to be like, oh, okay, I love being alone. Like I'm not lonely. It's kind of a lot of trial and error. So there's going to be things that work well when you're alone, and you're going to want to keep doing them. And it's almost more enjoyable to do alone than to do with other people. But then there's also going to be the things where you feel so out of place. You feel like people are judging you for doing it alone, and that's just not for you. Once you keep doing things that you enjoy alone, you won't even think about being lonely, in my opinion.
How do you see being alone as an opportunity?
Oh my gosh. I feel like when I'm alone, there's so many more things I get to do because I get to do what I want to do, and I'm not forced by the rest of the group to go do things that they want to do, and I get to just experience so much more.
It's so true. Like you get to plan your day exactly
on
as you
your
want
time.
It's
Yeah.
like no one else's decision. Like if you want to eat this, if you want to do that, it's all up to you. So I think it's a great opportunity to just do life how you want to. I also think it's a great opportunity to just discover your own interests, you know, try out new things, find a hobby. Is there like anything specific that you've been able to discover on your own like that?
Honestly, I was never a runner or anything like that. In this summer, I had an internship, but it was remote, so I was alone every day in my house, and I was going crazy. So I was like, I need to pick up a hobby. So I started running, and I like could get myself up to 4 miles by the end of the summer, and before
That's
I like
so awesome.
couldn't do one lap around the track. So just like picking up things and working towards it too is also motivating.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like this summer when I was alone and working, I really fell in love with the gym a lot more, and especially cooking, having to cook for myself. Like it started as something I had to do, but then I just loved it, and like I still love to cook all the time now. So that's like a new hobby that I found too. And so I just think it's a great way to discover more about yourself in that sense.
And it's honestly like therapy sometimes, like an unsaid form of therapy, I feel like.
Another opportunity just for like rest and self-care and just taking care of yourself. Like when you're around a lot of people and having to be, you know, entertaining people at all times, it just gets tough and tiring. And so finally having that time alone, it can be hard when you're someone who likes to keep busy like myself. But just like learning to appreciate that downtime and just being able to take care of yourself.
Yeah, and I feel like telling yourself that it's impossible to always be around people. Even though you're seeing things out there that everyone's always together and doing things together, that's not the case at all. So it's normal to have alone time in your schedule, and it's impossible to always have friends around you.
It honestly gets tiring.
Yeah.
Like, I know you see like all these posts out there, but
yeah.
you know, it's fun to get together with friends once in a while, but just taking that alone time too. In order to enjoy being alone, you have to learn to love yourself. So what are some ways that you overcome self-criticism?
Yeah, so this took me a while. Actually, this was something that I struggled with before, and I didn't even realize I was struggling with it. It was just my own brain telling me things that I couldn't do or I wasn't good enough for. The whole internship search process was terrible, like feeling like you see all your other classmates landing these awesome jobs and you're like, oh my gosh, am I not good enough for this? What am I doing wrong? Am I going to get a job? So it's really tough sometimes, but for me, it was talking to people that have already been through the process. So like talking to people, for example, me and Reese are both going abroad. So that's a really scary thing, but talking to people who already went and loved it and experienced the same emotions as you is super helpful to realize like you're going to be okay. You're going to get through it. Other people have gotten through it. It's not this crazy thing that you're going to die doing. And even with the job search, like talking to seniors that you were friends with and like realizing like it's not that bad. You're going to land a job. It's going to be a lot of applications that you don't hear back from, but you're going to get a job. Everyone goes through the same emotions. So just realizing you're not the only person that feels that way is so helpful.
Looking on LinkedIn and seeing everyone's accomplishments, like it's great. I'm super happy for them, but it also does make you feel like intimidated and like, you know, you start to self-criticize in that way. And that also is something that's huge on social media, of course. So how do you feel like that kind of relates?
Yeah, so social media for me was more of like a body image type thing. I feel like a lot of people our age post all the time because they need the attention of like, oh, I'm doing this. My life is so perfect. I'm in shape. I work out all the time. For me, it was more so just going to the gym more. I never really worked out. I was just an athlete. Like I played sports. But going to the gym, I could gain weight and still feel better about myself because it's more of like a mental thing for me. But yeah, going to the gym and not looking at someone else and being like, oh, they're better than me. It was more of a like, I'm an accomplished person. I can work out. I can look like that eventually. It doesn't have to be right now.
Not falling into that trap. Of of social media and posts and just everything online. The biggest thing is not to compare. Really just to like recognize your own worth and not even focus on what other people are doing because everyone's really focused on themselves, sadly. But it's really true. But just focus on yourself in a positive way, not in like a self-absorbed way.
And I do feel like there's a positive side to social media. There's a positive side to the whole like business school as well. But it's easy to fall in those traps, like Reese was saying. It's tough to not compare yourself at this age when it's all around you no matter where you go.
Also just setting realistic expectations. A lot of the stuff on social media and just online is unrealistic. And so learning not to fall into that as well. And not only like remembering your own worth, but also focusing on all your strengths and your achievements is so important just to kind of uplift yourself, get back into that positive mindset.
I agree. It's so easy to see the weakness side of yourself and fall into that trap of, oh, I need to improve this and that, to realize that you've come so far and that you are at a spot that like yourself 5 years ago would want to be at and work so hard to get at is important to remember.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people find it hard to like congratulate themselves for their accomplishments because they see other people accomplishing bigger things. But it's important to still stay like so true to yourself and be proud of yourself for, you know, you got to where you want it to be personally, and that's really all that matters.
Yeah, for me, I feel like it was making my own timeline. Like there's such a timeline that everyone else feels like you need to follow, but making your own and just taking like 30 minutes to be like, okay, this is where I think I want to be. This is where I might want to be, and just doing 2 different plans for it even is just so helpful.
Right. That's so true. Like even with the internship search, a lot of people have this timeline of, oh, okay, like by junior year, like I'm
going to land at this company.
So like high strategic, whatever internship. And by senior year, I need this. You know, they have a timeline that's like set in stone, and it's kind of like a thing that everyone feels like they need to follow. And just like making your own timeline and planning out your own life and just being excited to hit your own goals and not focusing on other people's, I think is so important.
And it's okay to fail. It's okay to like not go through with it and have some sort of other plan that was better fit for you. Like, I feel like you almost have to fail sometimes.
You do. Like, I am such a strong believer of everything happens for a reason. So like whenever I do fail, that's what I tell myself. Like, that happened for a reason. Something good's coming. And you just have to stay positive in those moments.
I agree.
I feel like a big reason why a lot of people struggle with independence is because they're really heavily reliant on other people. Why do you feel like it's important to learn how to just flourish without having to rely on a partner?
I could talk about this for hours. I was with the same person for like 5 years, and he ended up going abroad last year, and we lived in the same hometown. He went to school at Bentley, which is like an hour and a half away, and him going abroad was like the craziest thing to me. I thought it was the end of the world. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't just go visit him. Like, I can't just call him and he could come pick me up if I need it. I didn't realize how dependent I was almost. And then I was forced to, not by choice, just become my own person. So that was like him sleeping half of the day, I was awake. Just the hour change was different. I just forced myself to get involved, put myself in a positive environment, go to the gym every day, take on leadership roles. I landed my first internship. I really was like just learning how to thrive off of doing my own thing. And I didn't even realize I was thriving off of independence until he came home, and I realized how independent I was, and I was so happy to see him. But it was just the craziest realization of how now I view everything so differently. I feel like you truly need to be so confident in yourself in order to maintain a friendship or a relationship, whatever it may be, and just give everyone your full attention and be there for people.
Really good advice from that is, if you feel like you're in a relationship that you feel very dependent on that person, it can be a really good thing to step away for a moment and really just find yourself, find your own independence, and you'll realize like how heavily dependent you were on that person and how great it was to take that step back.
And it's not a bad thing either. It's not like, oh, we're never going to see each other again. Totally not. I think you need to really focus on yourself before you can focus on someone else.
And if you want to see that person again, like, you'll make the effort too. They'll make the effort too. So I just think that it can be in both people's best interest in that point. Not even just like with a significant other, but also with friends. Taking a step back and having independence also forces you to not have to rely on other people's opinions.
Especially in college, should even just go shopping and be like, oh, should I wear this out tonight? And them saying no is like the craziest thing of like, oh, maybe I shouldn't go out. It totally changes the way you view things, and it could change your mood and everything like that.
Being able to just make your own decisions and not have to like seek other people's approval is such like a breath of fresh air when you finally spend some time on your own. Yeah,
and realizing that like your life is your life. It's not someone else's life. I feel like in college I took a step back. I was like, this is my experience. I'm paying for it. Why am I trying to like make someone else make all these decisions for me?
And when you take that step away, now it's like when people do try and, you know, force their opinions on you, you kind of just laugh and
you
you're
take
like,
it with like a grain of salt.
And you do your own thing anyway, and you just become this independent person. So I think that's another great reason. And just learning to take your own opinions versus other people's really just helps you to maintain your identity and to just embrace your uniqueness in a way. You know, I feel like it's really easy to get caught up in other people's opinions.
Yeah, and I feel like before college, I didn't really know what my unique personality was. I just kind of identified with whatever my friends were. That's what I was. And I think that's still true to an extent, but just finding your own self and your own personality, it can be so powerful.
So like Sara mentioned earlier, we're both going abroad pretty soon. Is this going to be your first time traveling solo?
Yeah, I would say. Like, I've done little things by myself, but this is my first time going on like an airplane by myself, leaving home, no parents. Yeah.
That's so exciting. I've done like a little bit of travel for work and like I've been like on the plane alone, but then like I'll meet up with all my friends.
Yeah.
But still there were a lot of people I didn't know beforehand. So I guess that's the closest thing to solo travel, but this is definitely going to be like a huge adjustment for me too. And I feel like it's something that a lot of people shy away from and then regret because they're just nervous about the idea of, you know, being away from home for so long and being on their own.
If traveling alone was really easy, then then everyone would do it and it wouldn't be as rewarding as it is. So it's important to just take on that challenge and know that it's going to be hard and it's not easy, but then there's also a great reward at the end.
Yeah. And so how do you feel that people can overcome that fear of solo traveling?
Yeah. So for me, this is my first time, but in my little chunks, I've been going on family vacations every year. And I have 2 younger brothers, so a lot of the time the stuff that they would want to do is stuff that I wouldn't want to do. So just taking a few days to do my own thing and plan my own part of the trip was huge for me. And in a different country that I didn't know the language was like a big turning point for me. Even just visiting friends at college, like taking that weekend to be like, okay, I'm going to go experience something new. It's way different than my typical weekend here, but it's different and I'm going to have a great time. Small steps.
Exactly. Yeah. When I say travel, like I don't even mean like having to go all the way to Italy.
To go to Italy. Yeah.
Any sort of just like activities on your own like that where you're kind of stepping out of your comfort zone. I feel like for someone who hasn't traveled, it's really important to start small and, you know, just doing little day trips or something that you feel comfortable with to start. And then, you know, eventually traveling, because I think there's so much out there to see and it's just such a good opportunity that we have coming up. Like, I think it's crazy.
And kind of like we said before, you get to do more of what you want to do when you're doing your own thing. So I'm sure that I'm going to meet awesome people when I go to Italy, but I have a feeling there's going to be things I want to see and do that they might not want to do. So knowing ahead of time that I should research that and plan that ahead of time to make it less stressful and go do that myself. And if they want to join, great, but it could be awesome to just do by yourself.
This is the first time I'm going on a trip, being able to actually plan everything out on my own. Like, I'm so excited. It's a little overwhelming.
It's scary, but exciting.
It's like so many emotions. Yeah. But like, this is just so cool that we get to do this.
Yes.
And so really just getting excited about it.
Yeah. And it's good to know too that we have so many resources in today's times. Like, we can look at Google Maps, we can call our parents, all of our friends have our locations. You can get like pepper spray. You can get an alarm.
Like, we're not just like you're not thrown just like into some place.
A paper map and like you're gonna be okay. There's resources, there's internet. Especially as a girl, I feel like it can be overwhelming of like, oh, you're traveling alone, like that's not safe. I think there's definitely ways to make it safe as a young girl traveling alone.
Even though we're gonna be traveling alone, I think it's also a really great opportunity to make connections with other people, whether that be other people who are traveling and doing abroad from other schools, or, you know, just locals from that area. Like, we're going to meet so many different people. Awesome. So even though it's like a point of independence, it's also just going to be like such a great time to make connections with other people.
No, I agree. I feel like we're at an age too where we shouldn't take this for granted. We're going to graduate college and yes, we're going to experience so many new things in a different way, but we're going to be working. And now we're at an age where we have at our fingertips a way to just go meet awesome people.
Earlier, we talked a little bit about just like friends and their expectations of you and their opinions. And I feel like this is a tough thing when it comes to wanting to spend alone time, just feeling like scared to talk to your friends and tell them you want to have this alone time and, you know, maybe not go out. So how do you go about communicating that to your friends?
Yeah. So for me, this was a tough thing to get over. I don't know why I thought my friends were going to hate me if I went to Target alone. I don't know why I had this fear. My friends are awesome. I have awesome roommates and I'm so lucky for that. But I think I just started by saying, I'm going to go here. Do you need anything? So it's like you're still doing a nice gesture, but you're also getting the point across that you're going there and they're not coming with you.
Right.
And it's not mean. So I thought that was a first step for me. And then also just being transparent with your friends, like making it up an excuse of being like, oh, well, you can't come because I have to go here and here and then I have to pick up this person. Like, they're going to find out that you're lying to them for some reason. It's better to just say, I'm stressed. I've had a terrible week and I need to go do this alone.
Yeah. And if you're honest with them, they should just accept that, appreciate it, and if they're really your friends, like they're not going to get mad. So it just doesn't make sense to lie about it.
Yeah. And I feel like, again, off of that point of like, this is your experience, this is your life, not theirs. It's okay to set that boundary and draw that line of, this is what I'm going to do because I need to do this for my week. And they should understand. If they don't, then I don't know, maybe reevaluate other things. Yeah.
So yeah, like you were saying, politely decline, maybe offer another time to make plans with them. Like if they're asking you to come out and you're genuinely tired and you need to take a self-care night, just be like, hey, but tomorrow night, like I'm there, I'm super excited.
Exactly.
So just politely declining. Also just recognizing the importance of taking that time for yourself. They should recognize that too if they're real friends, like I was saying. But it's important for you to recognize it first and not have to feel bad.
Yeah, you shouldn't feel bad about saying, sorry, I was not in the mood tonight. Have fun, but I'll be there tomorrow night. They shouldn't not be able to do something because you're not there.
Something I've mentioned on the podcast before is FOMO. Is that something that you experience?
Yes, I did freshman year.
Okay.
Sophomore year, I started to be like, okay, this isn't that cool. Like
that's like the same.
It's the same thing
exact
every
thing
other
that I said too.
Weekend. Yeah.
Like freshman year, I had huge FOMO.
Yes, I forced myself to go out so many times. I forced myself to do things I didn't want to do because it's like, oh, all these people are gonna have such a good time, and I'm not going to be in the memory. I'm going to miss out on this, whatever it may be. And I feel like now I'm like, yeah, we'll do that again in a few weeks, and it's going to be the same thing. It's still going to be fun. I still have a good time, but I feel like I can, again, take those nights to myself.
Right. So if you're like just starting out in college, you're a freshman, you're still like in that FOMO stage.
Yes.
Just know that it's going to fade out.
It gets better. It gets better.
Just try not to feel that FOMO because there's so many opportunities to have plans and to have fun with your friends and really just listening to your body, doing what's right. So independence can be hard for some people. Like, just to be completely transparent, it gets hard for me sometimes too. And so when it gets to that point, how would you suggest like seeking help or, you know, seeking any sort of support during your independent journey?
Yeah, this was very apparent for me and all of my roommates actually this year, off-campus living, alone in the apartment, alone in your own room, you didn't have a roommate, was tough. But I think seeking a community on campus or a community outside of just your living arrangement that you can go to if you feel upset or lonely or whatever it may be. So for me, I found Charge, which is like a health and fitness community, a very positive environment to be in. And if I was feeling upset, I could be totally transparent with them and go do whatever it may be, and I'd feel better. Also, if you don't have that or if you're not in college, I feel like there are so many resources out there. I don't do therapy, but so many people do. So many people have great results from that. So maybe taking on therapy and also just taking on a conversation with your friends, taking on a hard conversation that you might need to have of, I'm really struggling. I don't know why, but I'm sorry if I've been off, being transparent.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Just finding any sort of community, whether that be family, friends, or even just a group at school. I am curious, like, a little bit more about Charge because, like, for anyone who goes to UMass, or I know they have it at other schools too, right?
There's like, I want to say like 40 chapters or something like that, or maybe there's 50. I don't know. It's kind of like a sorority type thing, but it's not in Greek life or anything like that. The focus is to just drive a positive environment. Is a fitness piece of it, so they do workouts every week, whether that be going to a gym or them coming to us. There's social aspects of it, so they'll do like paint night, movie night, all of that stuff, and then we have formals and stuff. So it's kind of along the lines of a sorority, but at UMass there's 250 girls.
Wow.
So it's like you were bound to find a few people that were positive, wanted to be involved, and that's what I found, and I had a good experience with it. But that's where I started this. This is kind of where me and Reese aligned. So you make like an Instagram, a Charge Instagram. I wasn't even trying to like make a lifestyle Instagram or anything like that. It just naturally fell into place. And then Reese was doing this for a while and we just kind of aligned in the same values. So.
Yeah, I think that that's so important to find a group like that where, you know, it's great to have your friends and your family and people who have similar beliefs and values in that sense, but also just at school, like putting yourself into a group that's positive like that, I think is awesome.
Yeah, because then you have an image of school being a good place to be too. It's not always great to just have home be your go-to because you do have to survive at school if you're living there.
So we've talked a little bit about self-care. How do you personally, you know, put self-care into your routine?
Yeah.
How do you feel like that helps you love your independence?
Yeah, I take self-care seriously. Self-care is like built into my schedule as an event.
Oh, I just love it.
Yeah, it's my favorite thing to do. All my friends would say that about me. Yeah, so for me, I need an hour every morning to myself before I talk to someone, honestly, and before I take on the day. So that's like not going on the phone. That's making myself breakfast, having coffee, planning out my day. I put self-care into my Google Calendar.
I love that.
Yeah, this semester it was taking no Friday classes. So I do like something to look forward to on Friday, whether that be go to get coffee and a bagel or like go to a spin class or something like that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like Sundays are such a self-care day for me, but I definitely put it into every single day. I feel like having a morning routine is so important.
Yes.
A nighttime routine's great too, just to wind down, but a morning routine like sets up what your day is going to look like.
Exactly. And I'm not a morning person either.
No, me neither.
But I feel like that made me become a morning person. You get excited to wake up when you have a plan ahead of you. It even got to the point of like I'd look on the Starbucks app the night before and be like, I'm gonna go get this coffee.
Wait, no, like same.
Yeah. Come back and then this is what I'm gonna do and it's gonna be so good and then I'm gonna work out and have a productive day. I don't know about you, but I get more done in the morning than at night.
I think it's so important to like get so many things done in the morning.
Yes.
Like before it hits like 12 o'clock, let's say.
Yep.
You've accomplished so much, whether that's like just you made your bed, you drank water, you did this, like having all those things checked off in the morning just makes you feel so productive.
And especially when it gets dark out early, it's tough to stay motivated after like 4 o'clock when it's pitch dark.
Right.
And you need to still get done like 4 assignments that are due that night. It's better if it's just out of the way, eat dinner, shower, relax.
Yeah.
But again, everyone's different. But for me, that's kind of my form of self-care.
Yeah, I so agree. I feel like I spend every night like planning my morning. Okay, like what am I getting for breakfast or making for breakfast at this place?
Yes.
Like when am I going to the gym? I just get myself excited for the next morning, and that's really helped me to become more of a morning person.
Exactly. And it's okay to not have a day where you can do things. Like I honestly consider that self-care too, a day to just stay in bed, like watch Netflix, whatever it may be. It doesn't always need to be like a productive day.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's so many different forms of self-care.
Yep.
I really like to define it as anything that you feel is helping you to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Like very self-explanatory. Another way I love to do self-care is through like skincare. That just really relaxes me. Anything along those lines is just taking care of yourself, and it's so important.
Yeah, for me, I'd say it was hot yoga. You just feel like you sweat out everything. And
hot yoga is amazing.
Yeah, everything shower, of course.
Yes, and really just like fitness in general has really helped me out too. Going to the gym, like you were saying, it's more a mindset thing for me too, and just helps me to be more independent and feel proud of my accomplishments and what I'm getting done at the gym.
Yeah.
I think it all ties into just learning to love time with yourself.
Exactly. And that may be hard in college. I feel like a lot of people don't realize this until after they graduate college, but the sooner you start, the better it is.
Okay, so I have one last question for you. How has embracing independence helped contribute to your own personal growth?
Yeah, I feel like this is the perfect way to end things off today. For me, I've just gained so much confidence from being independent. I feel like I can take on whatever I really need to myself and not depend on like a parent or a friend to do something with. I feel like I've gotten so much more done. I've been so productive. I've gotten to see and do way more than I would have if I was waiting for a friend to do this or whatever it may be. But I'm just honestly way more confident in myself to take on things.
Yeah, that's actually exactly what I wrote down.
Yeah.
Is like it just gives you a huge sense of confidence and just being able to achieve things on your own and know that you're okay on your own and thriving on your own is such a confidence boost for sure.
I agree. And I do want to preface that this is like 3 years of independent living for me, and it was not always the case that I loved spending time alone, but now I do look forward to having an alone day, and just even an hour is just so nice for me.
It definitely takes time and maturity to really fall in love with just being alone and learn to see it as a positive thing. And it's still something, you know, I even struggle with from time to time. You know, not every single day I'm loving being alone. You know, sometimes it does get a little bit lonely, but just taking some of those tips that we mentioned is something that has really helped me out. And just keeping it positive.
Thank you so much for having me today, Reese.
Yes, I had so much fun. I feel like this was such a good refresher for me. I needed it.
Yes, especially we're on winter break right now, and it's tough not being around all your college friends. So this is so fitting. Honestly, guys, just take these tips with your own personality. So what works for me and Reese might not work for you. Just kind of try a bunch of different things out.
Thank you so much. I had so much fun.
Yes, I did too.
Guys, keep watching. You know the deal. Leave comments, suggestions. Come on the podcast. I just love having people on here.
It's fun.
It's a lot of fun. Thank you so much for listening, guys.
Bye.